We got a hilarious episode today as NBA Youngboy faces 250 years in jail for impersonating a grandmother to try to buy lean. Now, I'm not saying that the situation is funny. Nobody going to jail is funny, but we all know that with his money and obviously the fact that it's a non-violent crime, he's not doing anywhere near even 2 years for that crime, I don't think. But I'm going to watch a video of 1090 Jake break down the case, and let's see what it's really about, because the story does sound kind of funny. NBA Youngboy is a very successful rapper, but he's not the smartest, so let's see what's going on with this.
All right, let's go. A popular rapper is facing over 60 charges after he was arrested in Cache County.
NBA Youngboy was arrested this week at his Mill Creek.
Maybe he is doing 250 years.
Home in what the Cache County Sheriff's Office is calling an ongoing investigation into criminal conduct.
We are learning new details about why young rapper NBA Youngboy was arrested in Utah yesterday.
The rapper, whose real name is Cantrell Deshaun Golden, was under house arrest as he awaited trial on federal gun charges. Several agencies, including the FBI and Secret Service, executed a search warrant yesterday morning.
September 19th, 2023. Reed's Pharmacy in Hiram, Utah, received a prescription called in for a 74-year-old woman named Bethel White. The physician who called provided the proper...
Hold on, he impersonated a white woman? You gotta be kidding me.
...for identification, but the number he called from wasn't from his pharmacy. A phone call to the suspected pharmacy would confirm suspicions. The pharmacist didn't have a patient named Bethel White. He never called in a prescription, and apparently someone's made several orders using his name that day. The prescription was for an antibiotic, as well as promethazine with codeine, a Schedule 5 controlled substance, and one of the most abused and sought-after drugs in hip-hop. The antibiotic was most likely just to make the prescription less of a red flag.
So he lives in Utah, and I could imagine it's probably difficult to get lean out there. So it's not just like he could call a homie, he's in LA, Atlanta, or something, and just get lean easily. He's in Utah, so that kind of makes sense.
Law enforcement would wait in the parking lot of Reed's Pharmacy waiting for someone to pick up the order, but nobody came.
That's crazy that they had
day,
like a sting operation set up on for this.
Received a call from the same suspect using the same physician's information. This time, 71-year-old Gwendolyn Cox needed promethazine with codeine. 2 weeks after the prescription was called in, a female came and picked it up, stating Gwendolyn was her grandmother. The following month, Spencer's Pharmacy received a second call requesting more lean for Grandma. Spencer's obviously realized the 71-year-old didn't just drink a whole bottle of syrup in less than 3 weeks, so this time they requested a hard copy of the prescription with the patient, so the suspect on the phone hung up the call. Spencer's Pharmacy attempted to call the number back after looking up the physician's name, only to make contact with the real physician, finding out someone's been fraudulently using his credentials. On January 17, 2024, a fraudulent prescription was called in to Larry's Pharmacy in Smithfield, Utah. It was the same deal. Another elderly woman wanted lean, and when things looked suspicious, the pharmacy called.
So this was like a scam he had going on for a while.
The Cash-Rich Drug Task Force would conduct the initial investigation. Obvious similarities between the reports from the different pharmacies would lead officers to devise a plan. Contact would be made, and 2 females would arrive at Larry's Pharmacy to pick up the prescription. They'd be detained, and officers would smell a strong odor of marijuana coming from the Chevy Tahoe they drove in. With the females consenting to a search, marijuana flakes would be found around the interior, along with an empty handgun case for a .45 caliber 1911. They'd claim the marijuana wasn't theirs, and they were picking up a prescription for a friend that they refused to
So weed
name.
must be illegal in
The
Utah?
2 women would later be arrested for their role in the prescription fraud ring, and officers would discover the Chevy Tahoe they were riding in was registered out of Texas under a 24-year-old man named Cantrell Golden. Cantrell will be more commonly known as rap superstar NBA Youngboy. One of the task force agents would be contacted by dispatch and informed that none other than Gwendolyn Cox needed to speak with him. During the conversation, she'd state her last name was White instead of Cox, and
I gotta say, this is quite the investigation for lean. Like, this just seems crazy. Like, you think they'd have better things to do, the task force out there in Utah. Come on.
give her birth month and date, but couldn't provide the age and wouldn't provide her address. It was very clear to the agent that Gwendolyn was using a fake voice, as this old woman sounded like a much younger male from the South. She, or he, made a statement saying, "Well, I asked her to, and she said that she'll have you call me." The terminology ax instead of ask was a dead giveaway and consistent with a southern dialect from states like Texas,
NBA.
Georgia, and Louisiana.
The feds are on him for lean, and he's talking slang on the phone as a grandmother? That's crazy.
Attempted to contact the drug task force in an effort to get the Chevy Tahoe out of the impound. During this time, the impound company suspected the vehicle may be stolen after speaking with the so-called manager, so the task force officer requested to speak directly with Youngboy. On a conference call being recorded by dispatch, Youngboy told the task force agent the females arrested at the pharmacy were family. The agent would ask about his relations to the female and if they had his permission to drive his vehicle, to which Youngboy said they did have his permission, and he asked for his vehicle back. The agent would tell Youngboy how to get his vehicle back, and the conversation would continue when Youngboy said, "Ask him about the prescription that they picked up." He paused for a few seconds before saying, "She on the fucking hospital bed. She on the hospital bed." The agent was aware Youngboy was speaking to someone else who claimed to be Youngboy's brother. The call would break up and go silent for durations of time.
He's got the feds on him at this point, and he's still trying to get the bottle of lean. Like, you should be worrying about getting out of this mess, Mr. Youngboy.
Leading the agent to believe they were muting the call. Because Youngboy was speaking about prescriptions without being asked, showed he had knowledge of the fraudulent prescription the females attempted to pick up. It would also prove intent, as Youngboy attempted to further the prescription fraud by stating, "She's on a hospital bed," referring to the fake patient. Youngboy would also slip up, using the word ax instead of ask, the same way the fake patient Gwendolyn did on the phone. And at this point, it would appear obvious NBA Youngboy was pretending to be a 71-year-old woman in an attempt to get lean. The drug task force would speak with the physician whose name was being fraudulently used, and a report for how many prescriptions were successfully picked up would be made. Ann White, Beatrice White, Caroline White, Gwendolyn White, Alice White, Francine White, Francine Taylor, and Gwendolyn Cox were all fake elderly women whose names were used to pick up different amounts of coke.
I thought he had dressed up as an elderly woman and went into the pharmacy physically. That would have been a much funnier story, but it's still pretty funny, I can't lie. How did these 60 charges rack up? That I don't understand. Maybe it's just all the successful purchases of the lean, but he couldn't have got it 60 times.
Sometimes repeatedly. Surprisingly, NBA Youngboy's own name, Cantrell Golden, would be used with a birth year of 1953 to pick up a 7-day supply of codeine. A juvenile would be apprehended at the pharmacy after attempting to pick it up. Additional calls were made using Youngboy's real name and real birth date by someone in Houston, Texas. It was discovered the same white Tahoe registered in Texas that the females were arrested in could be seen in one of Youngboy's music videos. Further investigation into Youngboy was conducted after he was identified as the primary suspect. Rising from the trenches of Baton Rouge, Youngboy is documented to have lived in Louisiana, Texas, Georgia, California, and Utah. He's also currently on federal pretrial probation as he awaits trial for a federal gun charge for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon.
It's got a lot of shit
The rap
going on.
star's criminal history is not only extensive, but violent. Back in 2016, Youngboy was arrested on 2 charges of murder in Louisiana as a juvenile. The charges were eventually reduced, and Youngboy would be convicted of aggravated assault with a firearm, while his second charge of attempted murder was dropped entirely. This conviction
This guy's getting
alone
off hella
would make him a
easy.
convicted
I ain't gonna
felon.
lie.
In 2018, he'd be arrested for aggravated assault and kidnapping, with the kidnapping later being dismissed. Youngboy would plead guilty to a lesser charge of simple battery, resulting in a misdemeanor conviction and 12 months of probation. In 2019, Youngboy would be arrested for marijuana in Georgia, and in 2020, he'd be arrested in Louisiana for possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, distribution of marijuana, possession of a controlled substance, illegally carrying a weapon, illegal possession of a stolen firearm, and possession of a controlled substance. In 2021, the feds would indict Youngboy for his Louisiana gun charge, and 3 years later, he'd still be on pretrial release. Youngboy has been identified by the FBI as the leader of the NBA street gang. The gang itself is a group of Youngboy's associates that have been classified as a gang because of their structure, affiliation, and violent behavior. Youngboy's
Probably
music
from
is
all the
heavily
money he has.
influenced
Funny,
by that behavior, as he is consistently rapping about shooting and killing people, using drugs, and having a strong dislike for law enforcement. The rap star currently resides in Huntsville, Utah, within a multi-million-dollar mansion he's named Grave Digger Mountain. With an ankle monitor, Youngboy needs approval to leave his home for any reason, to the point that it doesn't even matter if it's a doctor's appointment. All guests that enter Grave Digger Mountain also have to be approved by his federal probation before entering the property. The same suspects that will be caught up attempting to pick up fraudulent prescriptions were all on Youngboy.
It seems like they're about to raid his Grave Digger mansion any day now on some Diddy shit. Not on some no Diddy shit, but on some gang shit or whatever.
Visiting list. On April 16th, 2024, a search warrant was executed on Grave Digger Mountain. Everyone within the mansion was detained, including Youngboy, and after being read his rights, he agreed to an interview. Youngboy was asked about the presence of firearms inside of the home. He said a gun belonging to his wife was inside, and Youngboy was asked if he ever handled the gun or if his DNA would be found on it. He denied that his DNA would be found, but stated 2 days earlier he had picked the gun up and moved it from an open area, placing it inside of a drawer. He claimed that was the only time he touched the gun, further stating his wife always has the gun within reach throughout the house. Youngboy was asked about prescription drugs in his house, and he said he has a prescription for promethazine. He provided the doctor's name who prescribed it and said he was local. When asked if he had any doctors in Texas, he'd say no, and continued to deny having been prescribed drugs from any other doctor. When asked about his associates picking up fraudulent prescriptions, he claimed to have no knowledge of their activities. He confirmed his association with 3 of them, and when confronted about the call with the agent, he stated he didn't remember, making suggestions the agent likely spoke with his dad. But the agent would note Youngboy has a very distinct voice, and that it was in fact him on the call, as the agent later spoke with Youngboy's dad and could tell it wasn't him. Youngboy was interviewed further, but continued to be deceptive and deny knowledge of anything illegal. During the search, law enforcement found a prescription bottle inside Youngboy's bathroom within the master bedroom.
What a surprise.
The bottle was prescribed to Caroline White, one of the fraudulent names. An antibiotic would be found within Youngboy's name, but with the birth date from 1955, and another bottle of promethazine would be found without a label. A handgun Youngboy admitted to possessing would be found within the master bedroom closet, with an empty magazine and 1 round loaded in the chamber. 3 more bottles of promethazine would be found inside of the home, and all electronics was seized. NBA Youngboy would be placed under arrest and charged with possession of a weapon by a restricted person, pattern of unlawful activity.
Okay, so that's where the 60 charges all added up. From the raid in his crib, they found, I guess, multiple guns and a bunch of lean bottles, and he probably picked up lean a shit ton of times. This guy's obviously a massive drug addict, which is going to be argued in his defense in court, and which is probably how the lawyer is going to get him off this shit or get him off lightly. You know what I'm saying?
counts of identity fraud, 20 counts of procuring or attempting to procure a drug prescription, 20 counts of forgery, and possession of a controlled substance being marijuana or spice. Now, while it sounds like Youngboy clearly has a drug problem and was using his team to obtain them, how serious are his actual charges? For possessing the weapon and the pattern of unlawful activity, he faces up to 15 years each. Both fraud and forgery carry up to 5 years in prison, while trying to get a prescription carries up to a year. Because he faces 62 charges, NBA Youngboy is facing, at maximum, a total of 250 years.
God damn.
But it's highly unlikely he'd receive that sentence, as that's the max punishment on every count. What is likely to happen is the feds will indict Youngboy again for being a felon in possession of a firearm, the same way they did after his arrest in Louisiana. If this happens, we can expect his pretrial release to be gone and Youngboy to be kept in a federal facility until both federal cases come to an end. The fact that he admitted he moved the gun is an admission of guilt, which his lawyer will have to fight to get that statement thrown out. On top of that, the gun was found loaded in his bedroom closet, meaning while he may not have physically possessed it, even though he said he did, he could still be charged with constructive possession for the simple fact that he had access to it. Obviously, being placed on house arrest for years is damaging to one's mental health, and a drug addiction
the guy already stays inside his house and shoots music.
We'll just have to wait and see if Youngboy's legal team is able to find sympathy while prosecutors seek punishment and a judge weighs out justice.
Okay, so that was a good breakdown from 1090 Jake on the situation. My prediction, he's not doing more than 6 months in jail. Non-violent crime. The gun was in his house. He didn't shoot anybody. The lean shit, easy to get off shit like that with all the money he has. So most likely he's going to be on house arrest, and the guy already lives his life on house arrest essentially. He shoots music videos. He doesn't seem to leave the crib. He records in the crib. He shoots music videos. He releases music. He makes all his money from his house. That's why he lives in Utah in the middle of nowhere, and I don't blame him. So yeah, that being said, I think it's usual shit for NBA Young. It's a funny headline about the grandma and all that, but I don't see too much coming from this in a bad way for Mr. Youngboy. It's probably going to cost him some money and all that, but you guys let me know what you think in the comments. How long is NBA Youngboy going to face for impersonating a grandmother to get lean and getting caught with a gun in his closet during a raid at his house? You let me know in the comments. My name is Minty Burns. This is the As the World Burns podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Drop your opinion and predictions in the comments. And of course, like this video. That's it for today. I'm out of here. See you on the next one. Peace.